What is up, YouTube? I'm back again playing Stealth Masters with Snowy. We're going to try to get through a little bit more gameplay in this video, just so I can actually get him upgraded pretty easily. Usually I get through one, we'll try to get through two. So let's start um, and see how far we get. I'm trying to save some money and not use any weapons, so let's see how we can get through with the sword. So as usual in our YAP sessions, I'm going to talk about some stuff still within this masculinity and manhood rant that we've been doing so far. And right now, what I'm going to go based on some of the conversations I've had recently. So, yesterday I mentioned that every first Monday of the month, I'm in a men's group that we talk and we support each other, talk about some of our triumphs, some of our struggles, throw ideas out there. And it's a pretty good group. It's a group of professional men and younger men, older men, all within different sectors, with the commonality that we all understand that we want to make ourselves get better, whether or not it's in the professional ring, the financial ring, or just even in our health and fitness, or any other gambit of life, even with our spiritual aspects of our life. And one of the topics that came up in that meeting this month was the idea of motivation and discipline. Someone brought up the idea knowing that working out was super important. They're at an age where they're transitioning in between fields and picking up a different workload, and that they also have started letting working out and keeping their body and their health in shape has started going by the wayside. And he's less focused on being physically fit and just like looking good naked, for example. But he's thinking of the fact that he's in an age now where many of his family members are using the cane pretty prematurely. He wants to make sure that he's vibrant, he's energetic, he has the energy to make sure he can continue his profession, that he's able to have full mobility of his limbs and be more health focused, right? We want to make sure that we get the most out of the bodies that we've been blessed with and the health that we've been blessed with. And he was trying to figure out, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay disciplined? Even when it's hard, not necessarily because life is hard, but you just lose the steam. You get demotivated because you step on the scale and you've been putting in the hours in the gym and you've just plateaued. And it was a very important question because in many things in life, where we hit plateaus or sometimes things become mundane and it gets hard to push through, it's hard to get the motivation or the discipline locked in. And it turned into a great conversation overall. We focused a lot more on the health and fitness side of things, and we all gave little bits and pieces. So I want to kind of summarize a lot of what happened in that conversation and a lot of the key nuggets that were pulled out of that conversation. So the first thing is just making sure you start somewhere. And that is usually the most difficult thing, just starting, because sometimes once you fall off, it feels like it's so much more daunting just to get back in there. And one of the examples that came up was, for whatever reason, some people believe that before I go to the gym, I need to get healthy. Where in reality, you go to the gym to become healthy. The gym is not just for all the people, the fitness influencers who already have their six pack abs. It's realistically for the people who don't have the six pack abs, who don't have the ability to walk up a flight of stairs without being winded. They go to the gym to make sure they can build up that tolerance and that energy and that mobility so they have a better quality of life. But he brought that up and he had this mindset, and that's what prevented him from going to the gym for a really long time. So what he decided to do was that on Sunday, he would decide to just do something. And that started with just doing 5 push-ups and then 1 to 2 chin-ups or pull-ups. And he would do that all throughout the week. 5 push-ups, his 1 to 2 chin-ups. And he was happy with that. He was happy that he was just doing something. And then the next week he would say, the next Sunday, he would say, you know what? I think I can do a few more push-ups. I will do 8 push-ups and still do my 1 to 2 chin-ups. Chin-ups are a little bit harder, so he stuck with just the 1 to 2 chin-ups. And he would do that over several months, and then slowly but surely he would notice that he was getting stronger. And there'll be some days where he would do some of the bonus exercises where it'll be early in the evening, and he would do like 7 p.m. saying that I feel like I can do 3 push-ups. And so he would do those 3 extra credit push-ups, but still at the end of the night, he would do his 8 push-ups and his 1 to do chin-ups. And then over time, he started getting excited because he saw that he was getting stronger. He could do more push-ups. He can do more pull-ups and chin-ups. And that gave him confidence to eventually start going to the gym. The moral of the story for that is sometimes we just need to get started and be okay with small incremental progress. So that's number 1. The second thing that came up was more so for me, where sometimes discipline and motivation is not enough, and this is why we need accountability. This is going to go back to my video where I said go to church. One of the reasons why I said going to church and being around like-minded believers in person is because of accountability. You have to show up and look at these people in the face, have these conversations. People can actively hold you accountable, call you out on your BS. It makes a huge difference. So for me, I've been my absolute heaviest this year, starting back in June. And the things were starting to pick up. Life was starting to look good. I was getting a raise. I was getting progress in my work. I started winning more awards. And yet I just felt so unmotivated and felt so depressed. And it was mostly because my physical health was failing me. It was because I stopped really doing any type of movement outside of just going to work. So I had to start fixing that. And to do that, what I decided to do was just to start walking. Sorry, guys. And the first thing was just to walk an hour a day. And it was so hard, even though I knew that was just a basic thing, it was so hard just to try to start that. What I wound up doing was that I complained to one of my friends. And he knew that that's exactly what I needed to do when I started. And we all wake up really early because I'm one of those people where my alarm will go off at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I'll just keep snoozing it literally 100 times every 5 minutes. Saying I'll get up in 5 minutes, I'll get up in 5 minutes, knowing that I'm already awake, but just refusing to get out of the bed and just start the day. And so after telling my friend the very next day at 4:30 in the morning, he called me and fussed me out, told me to just get out of the bed and just start walking. And that's exactly what I did. I just got out of the bed, started walking, and talked to him for the full hour while I walked. And that level of accountability was what kicked off the whole entire thing that I needed just to start taking the extra steps and getting back into the mood of just moving my body. And that was extremely, extremely helpful. Because once you started doing that, then after I started seeing some of the pounds come off, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, then I started going to the gym. And once I started going to the gym, I started changing up my diet. And then once I started changing my diet, then I started feeling a lot better. I started being more energetic. I started having clearer thoughts. I started being better at just doing so much more. Awesome. Let's get these results. And we probably can afford one more upgrade. Awesome. I see we can upgrade Snowy really quick. Let's see if we can get one more upgrade. Boom. All right. But going back to the conversation, just that accountability. He didn't give me any BS. Yes, I felt terrible, but that push and him not taking no or any of the excuses I was going to give forced me to get out, started the momentum. Yes, once I started working out, once I started eating better, I started feeling so much better, and people around me noticed. My boss started saying, wow, you're coming up with really great ideas. Whatever you're doing, keep doing. And that's when I started discovering like creatine as a supplement and how that sharpens your mental acuity, how my strength started growing week over week. That was the fastest I've ever seen any of my strength growing or recovering each week just by me lifting for one muscle group per week versus doing like trying to train them twice a week like most people usually suggest. But I was only training my muscle groups once a week, but each week I was gaining so much strength. But what that comes down to be is just like accountability. Now, of course, my buddy had fell off with calling me in the mornings, we having those conversations. But now that's morphed into the fact that once I started that up and my mother started seeing me doing it, she wanted to join in too. So now I have this person, an additional level of accountability where my buddy's no longer calling me. But now my mom wants to go to the gym in the mornings. It wants to go on do her cardio in the morning. And now that's another level of accountability. I know she's getting up early. She's making that sacrifice. She's expecting me to show up. She's expecting me to meet her there. And so, because I don't want to stand her up, that means now I feel like I have to go. And so, that accountability is something that's really going to help me pass my motivation and discipline issues. Because the same way how at work, you have to be at your job and you have to punch in, otherwise, you don't get paid, or you don't show up to your meetings and it looks really poor for your performance. Same way how I feel with my workouts. By having a person physically there, that accountability kicks in and makes it so much easier to do what you need to do. And that can accomplish anything. That's not just for health and fitness, but this can be for anything in your job. Say, for example, there's something you want to get done and get some headway on. If you want to, for example, work on a project and get it done early. Say, for example, you have your evenings where you're typically just vegging out because you're so lazy. Get some of your friends, hop on a Zoom, and you guys decide just to work for 30 or 45 minutes in the evening where you sit on a Zoom and you just work. And your friends hold you accountable. They do like a 15-minute check-in saying, all right, how much progress did you make? And then or you start up and you tell them exactly what you're planning to accomplish, and they check in on you at the end of the thing and see what happens when you are at the end of that Zoom meeting. And now, because you have these people sitting down in front of you, holding you accountable, looking for that progress, it makes it so much easier to work. And make sure these are not people who just say, "Oh, it's okay, you'll pick it up next time." No, these will be people who hold your feet to the fire. Accountability is only accountability if you have consequences. It has to be something where you feel like there's going to be consequences if you don't hold up your end and hold up your word. So accountability is a huge, huge, huge aspect of trying to overcome discipline and like the difficulties of building in discipline, as well as overcoming a lack of motivation. And so I think those are the two major things we pulled in from that conversation. And I think it's super important. I think we forget, especially in a day and age where we have technology, we think, oh yeah, the alarms on our phones do these different things. And for some people that's enough. I think some people just like seeing to-do lists and checking them off. Some people like having it in their calendar where they just see it on their calendar, they just do it. But for many of us, that's not enough. We know that we set those arbitrary deadlines. We know that we put those things in our calendar, and there's no real consequences to not getting them done until the real deadline shows up. So, what we need are accountability partners. We're not meant to do these things alone sometimes. And it's okay. It doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you simple minded, it doesn't make you less than. The accountability can be good for you and the person involved. Try to figure out if you have shared goals and shared values, and you can hold each other accountable to make sure you get to your common, well, not necessarily a common goal, but you both push towards the goals that you set out for yourself. And this is why I told you guys that churches are important. Meeting people, having people who know your faith, share the same faith, understand the lifestyle that you're trying to live and the life you're trying to walk, the path you're trying to walk, and having to show up and them knowing that you're still living with your baby mom and you didn't marry her yet, or letting them know that you are a person that is not a person of your word, where you'll say one thing and do another, or you're a person where you'll borrow and you don't pay back. So you have this level of accountability where, yes, it does feel uncomfortable, but once you get to the point where you no longer are lacking in those expectations, it becomes far easier because now you're living up to a level and to a standard that you're proud of. That because other people are holding you to that standard, now you fall down to your baseline, which is generally excellence. And the other thing that came up was that when you trip and fall and you stumble, it's not the end of the world. Most of the things in life are going to be an 80-20 rule. About 80% of your results is going to come from 20% of the things you do. And that means keeping it simple. When we're talking about the health and fitness thing, just making sure your baseline metabolic expenditures or the amount of calories you burn outside of the gym are higher just by taking more steps, and that you're consuming less excess calories by reducing the sodas you drink, the pure sugar that you consume, making it very easy for you to make sure your meal plan's on track. And the other thing is, you didn't get to where you are by basically one single mistake. It's a consistency and a pattern and a habit of doing bad things and making bad choices. So when you do the right thing most of the time, 80% of the time, and say, for example, you slip up and you have the soda, you don't even slip up, you decide intention, I want to have the soda because I want to enjoy myself today. I'm already outside. I don't typically have the soda at home. I have it outside. It's not going to mess you up. So you can enjoy life. You can have some mishaps. You can have a little side steps. But the thing is, you don't make that a habit. Your habit should be your baseline of excellence. And then we go from there. And once you do that, you're going to have pretty much everything you want, because just doing things to the 80% will make you far happier, far better, and far consistent and get you to your goals. And so hopefully this right here is encouraging. This gives you some insight to help you actually push forward in this time where you feel kind of low, you're lacking motivation, you're lacking energy. But that's all I really have for you guys. But as always, peace and blessings. We'll try to get this hostage one done next. And until then, peace.